count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood. Thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed. Cause the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Netrunners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid. While over in Westbrook, trauma teams scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Good morning, Night City. That's right. It's been yet another exciting night in Pacifica. The body count is rising. The streets are boiling with biz. If you want your eddies to spend, I know where to go. All right, folks, it is I, Mike the Birdman, and I'm joined with my Chumbas here in the afterlife, the podcast that never stops. No, I'm not. This is the prototype on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm joined with my compatriot, my very own Jackie Wells, who won't die with a bullet to the brain.
Alex, who didn't have a gun glitch into the side of his head while looking at Jackie.
And of course, it is not anything sci-fi, nerdy, or strange and unusual without our friend from the wilds of Michigan,
Aaron Pollier.
All right, guys. So as you can guess, we are going to be talking about CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. Now, before we go any further into the show, we should lay out some things that you people should know. For those of you that are downloading this directly into your wet wire right now, there are going to be spoilers abound. This game has been out for a month, so too bad, so sad. That's how you're going to have to deal with it. That being said, there is some controversy surrounding this game, and we're not really going to talk about that so much. We're going to talk about more the content. If controversial topics do come up, we will address them as best we possibly can, because other websites and other journalists more qualified than us have already spoken to them and have much more to say on it than we do. We're here to talk about the game such as it is in January of 2021, and what a week this year has been, so to speak. So, where do we stand? So, as of right now, literally before this show began, I have finished Cyberpunk 2077 with 225 hours of gameplay on the Xbox Series X across two separate saves. One is my save so I can go back and do extra side quests just before the point of no return. And the other one is my I've beaten the game so many times save, where I can literally fuck around, which will eventually be my DLC one. Let's
if
go.
It actually gets DLC and they don't have the company shut down.
Yeah, if shit doesn't hit the proverbial fan. Alex, what about you? What is your stats?
I'll start by saying I can't believe you got that many hours into this game. There's not enough content for that, unless you're just like going around meandering.
Well, then again, you did have a significantly different experience than me.
Well, I was going to say, like, I know that at the beginning you said you were farming for supplies, and I told you not to do that because the crafting system is broken unless you do it late into the game. So you probably wasted a bit of time at the beginning, but if you had fun, great. I did about 20 hours on the Stadia copy I was given, and then 80 total on the Xbox Series X copy.
I have about 84 hours on PlayStation 4. That's what I've done.
Now, are you talking base PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro?
Base PlayStation 4.
Oh, wow, you are a braver man than I. So that's something we should all talk about, as we did experience this game on different pieces of hardware. Aaron is firmly in last generation, which I was up until November of last year. Alex has the most experience playing across next gen, because Stadia is reportedly the best way to experience Cyberpunk.
I should also state that I did also have a copy on the good old games to play on PC to check, and I was able to play a bit before my PC decided that it was too hard to do. But yeah, I've sort of seen every version, and we should preface this, Mike, by saying that even though we're playing on the Xbox Series X, it is playing in backwards compatibility mode. There's nothing about the game that is made to work on Series X.
Yes, that patch is supposed to be coming at some point during the summer. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, just hope that it actually comes out.
Yeah, so it has been an experience to say the very least. So we are going to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly sort of our experiences. So when we went through this game, you obviously get the choice of playing a male V, a female V, or a transgendered version of V if you want to do that.
Not so much that it's male presenting, female presenting.
Yes,
that's how they present it itself.
When I did my V, I played her as a bisexual female. And I played her, I spec'd her out as a solo technician. To use terms from the game, a solo would be the Shadowrun equivalent of a street samurai or your typical kind of gunslinger. I played my V like I play Call of Duty, with a lot of guns, a lot of panache, and a lot of pistols. I can pick you off across the map with a pistol sight. I don't even need a scope on it. And then I specialized then primarily in SMGs. I actually only touched an assault rifle in the early game. Once I got a weapon called Divided We Stand, and then the prototype Yin Yang, I think it was called, or the Yin Long, I think. I did exclusively that. And then, thanks to glitches, I got the most powerful sword in the game.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for teaching me that. And then I beat people to death with a dildo. So that was fun. And then my stat that I maxed out was technical ability, which allows you to pretty much open any door in the game, gives you max ability to crafting, bonuses to smart weapons and tech weapons and explosives. And then I think my next highest stat was cool, and then body, and then reflexes, and then finally intelligence, which I think maxed out at 8, which was enough to do most hacks, but not everything. Alex, what about you?
I, at least on console, PC's a little different, but on console, all of the default characters you can choose from are ugly. I have not seen a game with such a poor character creator in 10 years. So I went with the default female presenting character. And then I gave a giant dong, because apparently that's what they want you to do in this game. And I thought it was funny when you flip up and down between changing body parts, that your character will bounce. So I was able to make the dong do a helicopter spin.
You're so juvenile. I love it.
I know. Apparently I'm 12. Also, with all the glitches in the game, occasionally your dong peers through your pants.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that. That before some of the patches, that no matter what clothes you had on, sometimes your penis was just hanging out in the open and swinging around.
Half of this game, my character would load in naked, and I couldn't change anything about it. So I was like, whatever. But yeah, I was really disappointed in the character creator, because yes, anyway, you couldn't change enough in it. It was just a bunch of 6 presets, 2 singular voices. How many games that are RPGs have singular male and singular female voices? Even low end games. Well, even but
the Fallout games.
Mass Effect is 12 or 13 years old.
Okay, well, you can make the same argument for Fallout.
Most games now have 2 to 3.
Yes.
For either a deeper voice or higher pitched, or female, or they'll have an androgynous style voice between. But yeah, the problem was they said this game was going to be the largest character creator ever, and it was one of the weakest.
Yeah, there were parts of it that were okay, because I spent time with my wife Blair making my V, because I wanted her to look really cool, and I wanted her to look a mix of Caucasian and First Nations, and I kind of got what I wanted, but I was given the promise that this would be, as you said, Alex, the most in-depth character creation we'd ever seen, and we didn't get that.
And all they did was give us the options for penises, circumcised, not, large, small, vagina, hair, or not.
Yes.
And they're like, this is the largest, most robust character creator ever, because they gave more robust options to genitals, apparently.
Speaking to the voice acting, even though it was 2 voice actors, did you honestly think that it was bad? I mean, because I thought the voice acting was amazing.
The voice acting is great. The problem was the lies of the promises they gave.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm just saying, we should mention that at the very least, I thought that the voice acting was
some of the best,
amazing.
It's some of the best voice acting ever done for a video game. I can say that without a doubt. But yeah, getting back to my character, other than creating that, I decided to go, you know what? They said you can tackle any mission any way you want. I'm going to go completely stealth where I have no combat. It turns out that's a lie.
Yeah.
You cannot complete missions without combat. You can do certain side quests or certain things where it's recommended. There are some missions where you can sneak people out without getting noticed, but you cannot complete the game without combat. So, at all. It's just impossible. And we'll get into spoiler territory for that. So I was disappointed with that, but because I'm not somebody who plays stealth usually, that's not my deal. But I went, you know what? Everybody's saying that this is supposed to be like a souped up, crazy advanced version of the Deus Ex franchise that Square Enix has put out the last few games, and this was not as good as those as far as the stealth modes go. But I decided to spec myself into. I went. Everything was not physical at all. I barely had anything cool points initially. I barely had anything in endurance or even weapons. It was all hacking and everything I did was either hack doors, open things, bypass things, hack people. So I was trying to make myself like a full net runner. And for the most part, it was good until the end of the game when I realized I had to start putting points into other things or you can't beat it. So, because all those points that I put into hacking things, turns out you can't use them on bosses. So
you can use them on certain bosses, but
you can't use them on main bosses.
No.
You can't use them on plot specific bosses.
Yeah, I know you could use them on cyber psychos because I was curious. Could I use suicide on a cyber psycho? Yes, you can.
I don't know how much you put into there. If you can get legendary, beyond the top tier skills, one of them is a shutdown. It basically turns the body off.
Yeah.
It's an instant kill for anybody. That option does not work on any boss.
Yes.
It doesn't even show up. So I was like, well, I guess that was a complete waste to invest into. But anyway, I went with Corpo. So I was like, okay, I'll be this corporate slimeball, sneaky espionage type person. And then it turns out that, good intro. You spend an hour doing that and you find out that it means nothing because the different dialogue trees that it opens up to you when you talk to people do very little to change the story outside of the intro mission until after you get Johnny Silverhand in your head. It changes absolutely. That was in the trailer. It does absolutely nothing to change any story point after that at all. It adds a little text flavor. It does nothing to get you a trophy after you use it 10 times, and then you may as well never use it again because it never changes any interaction.
So I also made a Corpo character. I made a female Corpo character who I thought, if I'm going to be kind of alone in this game, what I want to be is a La Femme Nikita kind of character where I am all about combat, but I'm all about combat and looking good while doing it. So... I ended up speccing into reflexes and technical ability. Yeah, I didn't take cool, which is a very, very strange thing for that. But it just the way I was playing the character, it felt like, these computers, they don't stop her. She uses assault rifles for almost everything, assault rifles and submachine guns for everything. Because, if I'm going to kill somebody, everyone is going to know that I'm doing it. Within a mile radius. And
I should mention I was snipers and shotguns.
Shotguns are so weird in this. Well, anyway,
we'll get into that.
I appreciated the point of being able to play as a person who does not drink alcohol.
Yeah, that was cool.
And okay, that's cool. In real life, I drink every now and then. That's fine. But I thought it would be interesting that this is a character that keeps her cool at all times, and that she doesn't let drugs or alcohol like most of Night City seems to really be into, and that does not blur her perception of things.
It would be nice if that actually did anything to the game, though.
There's dialogue choices. It doesn't do doesn't do much, but I did generate a lot of eddies in the beginning of the game just by picking up liquor and selling it.
Yeah, I'll say this. I did notice that the vast majority of items are kind of useless. And once you get that skill that automatically turns junk items into money, it's well worth using it.
Unless there are things you can pick up which are worth a fair chunk, and it will destroy those automatically, but they come up so infrequently as to, you're right, it doesn't really matter.
And I should say that on the PC and Stadia version that I played, I did do the initial intro for the game to see how things would be different until you get Johnny Silverhand as a nomad. And the nomad has, I believe, the longest intro.
I think so,
Again, it's inconsequential once you're in. It doesn't really change the outcome.
Street Kid seems to be the shortest, I think.
Street Kid, I believe, is the canon.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the only one that properly introduces you to Jackie.
Huh.
So that being said, I guess kind of going through this, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we'll get into kind of spoiler territory with like endings and whatnot. So what I did like about this game is I liked a lot of the characters and certain side quests. One of my favorite characters is a character named Judy. You meet her remarkably early on. She's a brain dance editor who works at like a kind of strip club. She's a romance option. She was my romance option in this game, and I'm a big fan of her. I also liked a character named Claire, who is the bartender at Afterlife, and you find out through dialogue is she used to be a he, and then they transitioned, and they handle it with a unique piece of dialogue, which in my opinion I thought was handled okay. I've heard some people say not so much, but they say she's talking about how her husband died in a car crash, but they're talking about how they got together, and she's winning these races to avenge him. And she's like, before I became who I am today, my husband, I think the guy's name was Jamie, I think it was, stuck it out with me. They visited me in the hospital, and we grew closer together. And I wish you got more missions with Claire. You just do a bunch of kind of street races, but I really, really, really liked it. Another character that I love, and if I do a male run, I'll probably do a corpo male. I maybe want to romance Pan Am, and she's the nomad character. Her voice actress is wonderful.
Yeah.
I got a lot of really good interactions with her, a lot of good personality.
There's a couple moments where I thought her dialogue was a little stilted, but other than that, like it might have just been it could have just been how the game was buffering the audio in, to be honest. But that Pan Am's, like, and we'll get to endings later on, but Pan Am's ending is, I believe, the canon ending.
I hope so, because that's the ending I liked the most.
But again, we'll get into that after.
Yes. And then finally, other characters I liked. I liked Jackie to a certain extent, but every time he says Chica, take a shot. Because holy shit, he would not stop saying that. That was annoying. Another side character that I like, and they're only around for a couple of missions, is you do missions with the AI that's the car.
Oh, yeah.
Delamain. Funny as hell. And then weirdly twisted when they tried to murder you. I actually posted a clip on my Twitter like 2 weeks ago where the car is like, I have found you. Now I'm going to destroy you. And how they found me is they dragged me on my motorcycle and pushed me along the street for like 100 or so meters. I'm thinking,
that particular voice of that car, that was
GLaDOS.
supposed to be...
Yeah, GLaDOS. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
But I personally love the first time you get introduced to the one rogue one. Beep, beep, motherfucker. Beep, beep, motherfucker. And it blows up your car. And then the one that was well, we may as well just talk about that storyline, because that I believe might be my favorite of the side missions. in that it's sort of standalone. It could fit with any game. It doesn't have to be Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just sort of out of the blue. And, you know, at the end, you end up getting a cool car. But in doing it, you're tracking down, I guess, child AI, in that they are splintered AI that get disconnected from the core AI and then start to grow and become disillusioned with the world. And to the point where some are violent, some view humanity as evil, and like there's one that's suicidal. And it's just like, I'll go home, but please be careful, drive slow. Well, that one that you drive slow to bring back to the main AI is the car you eventually get.
Really?
Yes, because he's the only one that was friendly.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
And it's the same voice and same inflection. Doesn't remember really what happened beforehand, but you bring I love it. You bring it back, and then your choices are interesting depending on how high your skill levels are. Your choices are to, was it forcefully merge them,
Mm-hmm.
or forcefully purge them, basically killing them all. Then there was one that was, I think it was let them win. And then there's another option, but the final option that you can only get if your technical level's high enough is to basically merge them into a single entity. And then you do so, and it's like, oh crap, that might mean the end of humanity, but not now. And I guess your reward for doing so is they leave a piece of the rogue AI to, I guess, control your car. I wish it would talk to you more when you drove it, but it's only that one mission.
Although they do send you text messages from all around the world, which is pretty funny.
Yes. So yeah, like, I mean, I know I didn't describe it 100% as well because it's better to experience that one. It might be one of the more interesting and unique missions and stories in the game.
I liked it. It kept me entertained. All the different Delamains were really interesting, at least to me. Yeah.
So what are some of the other characters and quests that you guys like? Let's go to Aaron.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I think my favorite character that is not mine, is Johnny Silverhand.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's Keanu Reeves doing the voice acting and it's Keanu Reeves on the screen and he's just being amazing. Let's be honest. It's like watching a movie in some ways with Keanu Reeves and he's there talking.
Only he's better acting than he does in his real movies.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that. I freaking love that. Every time he was there, there was times that I would skip through some dialogue because I can read way faster than I can, I have to listen. But every time Johnny Silverhand was talking, no, there was no skipping. I'm going to listen to every little bit of this part. And it was worth it to me. I like the minor character that I actually thought was really cool was the AI vending machine.
I never got that mission.
Okay, that was broken. That is one of the first ones I encountered. I could talk to him, do the first mission where you talk to him, and then it glitched, would not let me do anything else, and then he was immediately broken.
Oh.
And it would show up on my map forever. I reported it as a bug, and I was told that apparently it didn't work for anybody. And that's because I played it when it launched, when it was supposed to be working. But, the game isn't. That and the Street Preacher wouldn't work.
The Street Preacher was hilarious. I thought the Street Preacher was hilarious. I always gave him money just because I wanted to hear the crazy more.
Yeah, I could do that. And then one day I showed up and he was just dead. And it was because apparently it triggered some event in the background, but didn't tell me.
I also really liked Rogue in the game. I thought she was an interesting character. I liked the byplay that was going on with Johnny Silverhand and Rogue in it through V as like the conduit. I thought that was interesting and a little weird, but purposely weird. Like it's supposed to be weird.
Well, and the fact that it's weird that you're talking to a grandma.
Yeah, that's one of the only times I can think in modern gaming where there's an older female action hero. I really can't think of any other franchise.
Yeah, but she's really cybered up, and you can tell that like all the cyberware that's holding her together is making her seem a lot younger than she is, if you know what I mean. Like, because she must be in her 80s.
70s or 80s,
yeah. And so that just seemed a little odd, but I'm okay, big deal. It doesn't matter. Maybe we're seeing her through Johnny's eyes in a way, and it doesn't matter what she looks like. This is who Rogue is.
Well, and when they do close-ups, they did do one good thing is they textured it. Well, they showed that her skin looked older than the other people's. It wasn't as smooth.
It was wrinkled. She had crow's feet around her eyes and things. I was really impressed with that. But every time I was dealing with Rogue, I was interested because Johnny was interested. You know what I mean? Like, I want to explore this. But besides them, I liked. I liked the your friend that you meet right at the beginning, Jackie. I thought Jackie was interesting and fun. I was honestly sad when he died. I honestly was.
Yeah, me too. Well, because you can see it's one of those situations where you can be a good person but be stuck in a shitty situation.
Yeah, and I felt really bad. But overall in the game, the thing that I think I liked the most is just the ambiance and atmosphere of it. Like,
what about Carrie, your bandmate who's like 80 something and decides that he's mad that some J-pop girls are stealing his music. His solution is we're gonna go fucking kill them.
Well, that's fun. I mean, there's some really crazy stuff in this game that's a lot of fun, and you just want to laugh about. Like,
the other bandmate, it's been almost a month since I played.
It's like Gary or Henry.
It's Eurodyne, I think is his last name, like Eurodyne.
Yeah. Carrie Eurodyne, yeah.
I'm thinking the bass player. She is crazy, or bass player or drum player. She's drums, I think. Is she drums? The girl with giant afro.
She plays keyboards. That's Carrie.
Keyboards? No, Carrie is the male friend.
Oh no,
Denny. Is
that Denny?
Denny?
That's it. Denny. Yeah.
Yes. It's like they ripped her right out of a Pam Grier movie in the 70s.
But doesn't that work for this? Since this is like the future of the 1980s.
This is the future of like 1982, and that's pretty much it. She's perfect. And did you get her baseball bat?
No. How do you get that?
Answer all the questions correctly, and go back to the house after they have that big fight, and you choose to have her in the band. And like there's all the cement that's been poured into her pool.
Yeah.
It's sitting there.
Huh. I'll have to go back because I have a save where I could maybe find it.
It's a giant golden bat, and it basically just says, like, the flavor text is nobody fucks around with her. And all I can think of is it's like the flavor text talks about how she basically busts people up with it. I'm thinking, that's like the perfect weapon for her. It's just a golden baseball bat. As far as other characters go, I'll say one thing. I felt that your handlers for each region were poorly fleshed out, because certain ones you can go and visit, but they do nothing when you talk to them. There was no point in ever visiting them.
Actually, there is, and I had to watch a video to find out why. Okay, so when you talk to a fixer, let's say you talk to Padre, for example. If you talk to him and go through all of his kind of dialogue, it reveals all the missions in a specific region. But if you drive around, the missions will show up as question marks. If you go visit the fixer, everything just pops up.
Huh.
So it's very poorly explained. But I do agree with you. Like, the fixers should have had more to do. There should have been like a quest line for each fixer that did something.
The one for your main area of town and the one from the very beginning of the game, those two are the only ones that have any storyline that's important to the main game.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is kind of pointless and just there because, hey, we need somebody for this region.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as extra side characters that I liked, let's see here. Again, I'm drawing a blank because it's been a month. The Jamaican dude that works at the bar that goes on you in your final missions.
Wayland, yeah.
I like He's him. Awesome. What he made me think of was he was like Phil Lamar's character on Futurama if he did a whole bunch of steroids.
and carried like a friggin' machine gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hermes. Yeah. Hermes with a machine gun.
Yeah, he's Hermes with a machine gun. He's like, and his whole thing is like when they're talking, telling stories. He's like, I like it when old people tell me stories. It's like listening to my grandparents. Side characters that are also good. Somebody I wish would have been in my party, or at least help me out more, was Samurai Guy.
Takamura. Right?
Yes. Oh man.
The Arasaka guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Takamura.
Who you think is going to be a larger part of the game. By the way, let's mention this. The single player game is incredibly short if you just go with the main mission.
Yeah, like
shorter than they said that was going to be.
Yeah, like you can beeline this in less than 20 hours. If you do all the side quests, like Alex got it to about 90 to 100, Aaron finished it in 80 something. I did positively everything I possibly could. I still missed things.
In about 80 to 85 hours. Now, again, consider this. There's a shit ton of these side missions that I didn't avoid them. They didn't exist in my playthrough.
Yeah, because
as in, not only would they not, a couple of them, like the vending machine, would show up on my map. But we're talking, there are some that not only would they not trigger, they just didn't seem to exist.
Yeah.
And then they would put patches out, fix one thing where a mission would now exist, but a mission that I had been working on was now gone.
There was one mission that I know you, me, and Aaron were kind of talking about in our private Facebook chat. I got the Johnny Silverhand roller coaster, and you asked me, how the hell did you get that? And I walked you through the process, and you're like, that never popped up for me. And I remember that being very prominent in the marketing for this game, because there's a shot very prominently during the trailer where you're riding the roller coaster out in Pacifica, and I was so sad for you that you never got a chance to experience that, because it's only a mission that'll take you like 5 minutes to do, but it's such a fun little distraction in the game that it's
I went everywhere, dude. Like I would travel, and also I went everywhere on foot.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I rarely drove anywhere.
And then once I started getting fed up with things, I would fast travel, because at least on next gen consoles, that's fast. But I found myself running everywhere because that's how I got things to pop up that wouldn't pop up any other way. And I went to every corner. I went to the edge of every screen where it would tell me to go back or reload me. I went to areas. There's about 40% of the map that has stuff populated that you can't do anything in because they just decided not to finish the game. Like, don't give us parts of the map that have nothing, unless you're going to have something to do there. And then,
yes,
like the uppermost section of the map, the upper rightmost section, top left, top right, and bottom left have nothing. And there are areas, and it's not areas where like, oh, it's nothing you can't access. There are some areas where they're fenced off and they're quite clearly for like DLC.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with. I knew that was going to be there, but there are other areas that have large buildings and everything. They're vacant, that never get used for any mission. It's like, why have it? You can't tell me it's flavored when there's that much detail put into it. It's just like they're missing things.
Yeah, there's like a building. I think it was like they called it a farmstead or something like that, and it was clearly a place where there were drugs being grown, and it was out by
the Biotechnica Flats.
Maybe it was out by the junkyards. Yeah, and it was just empty. I mean, there's lots of stuff inside, but there's nothing to do and nothing placed there like to pick up. So that was weird.
So let's talk about some of the bad things that happened during this game, because there are many. Notwithstanding if this game broke your system, there are refunds. But again, other outlets have covered that. We're not talking.
I got my refund.
Oh, that's right. You had a story with this one. Very short. Go ahead.
Yes. So I still have my Stadia copy and my PC copy. Obviously, I can play when I want to, but I'm somebody who pre-ordered the game. E3, was it 2019 when they announced the date finally, I think?
Yep.
And they did a deal. It was the last time that Amazon did a deal for E3 where you got percentage off the game. So in Canada, it retailed for $80, and I got it for $50. When they had a special deal, I got in right away. They had tried to get me to cancel it by delisting it, but it was still said that my order was confirmed. But if you went to Like if I went to my order and then clicked on the title, they changed the whatever their internal product code is for it. Regardless, anyway, game goes to come out finally. I've had it paid off like right away that summer. I bought a $50 gift card and then just threw it right on. So game goes to come out, and instead of getting 1 day shipping that I was supposed to get because I paid for priority shipping as a Prime user, they then tell me it'll take a week and a half, and I'm like, no, because I pre-ordered it before anybody else. You're supposed to be going in order of pre-order. They tell me that my SKU doesn't exist, but they'll source me a copy later because they put up a new version. And they said, well, we can get it to you faster if you're willing to cancel this order and reorder it at $25 more.
No.
No, Amazon. That's not how this works. It's not how your price protection. And then I go and find out that they know that was the last game they ever offered that deal on for Prime members. That's no longer a Prime perk anymore. So I went, oh, so you're just trying to not give me the game for the price that I paid for it. And they eventually then magically it shows up the next day when I complain and say that I'm going to go on Reddit and everything and talk about it. And it shows up literally the next day. So I go to play it and the game crashed about, I would say, okay, glitches as far as it not looking as good as the PC version. Obviously, this is based on the Xbox One version, then just playing it backwards compatibility, yada, yada. I wasn't expecting that. So glitches, there's probably, I don't know, 100,000 times something happened where there was texture popping or major problems. I had it crash on me as in the game turned off, like exiting the game completely, probably 40 to 50 times, maybe 100 in the course of the month. And then, or in the course of the 3 weeks that I was playing it, or trying to play it at least. I lost probably 10 to 20 hours of gameplay time. So Michael, I'm probably, in counting all the times that I had to like redo things, I probably put 120 hours into the game, but 40 hours of that would have been having to recover from bad save files that didn't work anymore. And I would say as far as dangerous crashes where it locked my system up and my system wouldn't even turn off unless I unplugged it from the wall, that happened about 9 times.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
In my experience, system lockups like Alex described, where you have to unplug the system and power cycle, I had 2 over the course of my 225 hours. Crashes where it would crash out of the game, those were infrequent, less than 10 times. Texture pop in, I had a lot of that. I had mission bugs. Like one I was actually telling these guys off air, there's a mission where you have to follow a van. It's a van that's doing surveillance on somebody. And I kept following behind the van at a good distance like I'm supposed to. But then the van would reach this intersection and a car was melted halfway into the street where the van couldn't get enough momentum to drive over the car, but it also couldn't push the car out of the way because the boundary of the street and the car were seen as one. So even with enough momentum from a heavier vehicle, I couldn't knock this car out of its assigned pathway so the mission could complete. So I had to reload that save multiple times until the van, quote unquote, got away from me. And then I called my contact and said, yeah, the bad guys got away.
I had to fail a couple missions because of that too.
Yeah, another one I had involved a mental hospital where the cop would spawn inside the room or they wouldn't spawn at all, and I had to reload that save a few times.
And I had problems there too.
You're supposed to get a key card to open up a locked room. In my case, the cop would spawn inside of the locked room where you couldn't get at him.
And my cop spawned underneath the floor and then fell to the bottom of the world.
I had a few cases where I would be locked in the middle of the floor and had to close my game and open it. I had to shut down the game multiple times when my character would get stuck in dialogue tree mode, even when I was in combat, and I couldn't use weapons.
Yep, I've had that happen once.
Now, and what's interesting is how much of a disparity between Michael's and my experiences are with how many crashes I had versus him. We have the exact same console, the exact same hardware, day one consoles, well ventilated, temperature controlled, no smoking in our places, nothing that could be a hindrance, no downloading in the background, nothing that could possibly affect the game.
And you were playing on next gen consoles.
Yes, the exact same Xbox Series X, internal hard drive. Nothing like my drive wasn't full, nothing running in the background, literally nothing else happening, and I had 10 times the crashes he did.
Now,
when we have identical hardware, that's what tells me that there's even more of a prolific problem with this game, in that it's behaving erratically on the same hardware.
Well, you see, okay, go ahead, Mike.
So yeah, I just want to make this really short. Then I want to go to you, Aaron. I encountered a weird bug I have never seen on modern consoles before. So last night I'm playing through the end game, and the game would load from the internal hard drive. It would go, I'd get to the opening text said uses these video codecs published by CD Projekt Red, and then it wouldn't go past the WB logo. I was able to repeat this error several times. I had to do a hard reboot of my console, and then it worked. I've never experienced a PC-like failure to load on a console in my life. That, again, what Alex said, the fact that we're having such weird discrepancies on modern hardware with everything almost the exact same, there's some fuckery going on, for lack of a better description here.
So, all right. Obviously, I said that I played this on a PlayStation 4, so last generation. And my experience wasn't as crashy as it seems both of yours were, which is strange. Like, I had crashes where the game would just go blue screen for a bit, and then it would crash out to the main PlayStation kind of, homepage kind of thing on the machine. That would happen often. I am sure that there were problems with like crowds in the game, being that I had very sparse crowds and traffic. So I'm sure that was an issue.
Ours is still pretty sparse, and when I compare it, like Michael compared to playing the PC and Stadia version, the crowd density on the Xbox Series X is about 30% of what the PC game is.
Oh.
I think the lighting is night and day. It looks like a completely different game. I can only imagine what it's like on PS4.
See,
I hear it's like an early PS3 game.
No, like I don't think so at all. I think it looks fine. It's not like, it doesn't seem next generation to me at all. It looks good though to me. There's some times where it seems like it's too dark, so I just turn up the gamma. But
yeah.
I think I saw T-poses once, which was funny. I'm like, oh, that character's asserting their dominance, and
that happened about 20 or 30 times for me.
I think that happened once.
Just once. I had a couple bugs with games like that guard in the mental hospital, and I can't finish that game on my one save. So while the game is buggy, I don't understand the hate for it. Like, I think
it's the bold-faced lies to the public and how they marketed it.
Fair enough, but I mean, I guess what I'm coming at it is that I didn't listen to all the hype and promises beforehand. I just saw a pretty cool looking game that had Keanu Reeves in it.
Yeah, well, and if that was what they were going for, great. The problem was when they advertised it, it was the practices of only ever showing the PC version without stating that. And then, now I didn't have to experience it when I did my review copy on Stadia. With Stadia, the requirements were just play the game and you can talk about it after a certain date. Anybody that was playing it on home consoles that weren't PC or Stadia were told they couldn't even discuss the graphics or show any gameplay. It had to be only stock footage from the PC version, or in the case of Stadia had their own where they could.
Okay, so I mean, you're talking about some
deceptive practices and deceptive marketing.
Yeah, okay. I mean, fair enough. But I will say that with the bugs that I encountered, I was not a person that knew anything about Cyberpunk pre this game, except that it was an RPG. I started playing it. I was drawn in by the atmosphere of the game. The bugs ticked me off, the crashes and the weirdness in it. But the game shone through enough that I want to get everything Cyberpunk RPG related.
Absolutely.
The world is utterly fascinating.
Yeah. Let's get into that in a second. We'll sort of talk about.
Can I one more nitpick that I have with the game?
Absolutely.
And it's really minor. And one of the big corporations in the game is Arisaka, right? And the way it's spelled is Arasaka. And as a World War II guy, there's the Japanese rifle from World War I era all the way through World War II is an Arisaka rifle. And it's not spelled that way. It's Arisaka. And so every time I saw the company's name, it like grated on me. Isn't that weird? But it is a real thing. You know, Arisaka is a thing in Japan. It's the name of the guy that invented that rifle. And he's really well regarded in Japan as an arms designer back in the day. I just thought
and I'm sure that was partially. We'd have to ask, I guess, Mike Pondsmith to find out if that was the reason. And I'm assuming it is.
Yeah, I assume that there's like a relationship between the character and that arms designer, because I mean, if you go through the game and there's some parts where you can like listen to the history of Arisaka, and there's like they talk about World War II and all of that. I'm like, wow, there's a guy that's still freaking alive that fought in World War II, and it's 2077. Like, this guy's 150 years old. How is that possible? You know. But
and he in my mind was a bit of an amalgamation of it sounds like that Arisaka you're talking about, as well as like, what if the creators of Nintendo were kind of evil?
Yeah.
Like they starts in a completely different industry and then becomes this big corporate type sort of thing.
I did get also one bug whenever looking in the mirror, like my hair would just disappear, and I had like the death stare. And that was like unsettling the first time I saw it. I'm like, what the hell's happening here? But other than that, like, yeah, we can go into the overall game now, I guess, if you want.
But see, yeah, I mean, Cyberpunk 2077, as Aaron mentioned, is based upon the tabletop role-playing universe, which is Cyberpunk 2020, Cyberpunk 2023, and then Cyber Generations to a lesser extent. And then 2070, and then Cyberpunk Red, which is the current iteration of the tabletop game from R. Talsorian Games. There is talk of a 2077 sourcebook coming up at some point, but they put out an informal poll on their Twitter a couple weeks ago asking what do people want to see, what's the differences between CD Projekt Red's version of the Cyberpunk universe compared to theirs. There are differences.
Yeah, there are.
Because when you read the Cyberpunk Red source book, the bombing of Arasaka Tower does not happen exactly as it happens in the video game. There are some slight differences, not enough to really get kind of pissy over with, just a minor interpretive detail. But overall,
it also could be because of Johnny Silverhand's perspective of it.
Yes, exactly. Whereas Johnny Silverhand is experiencing it firsthand, you as the reader experiencing it third-hand, omnipresent sort of thing. I do like the world of Cyberpunk, and something some people have made this comparison online, and I think it's a little bit unfair, but I see where they're coming from. Cyberpunk 2077 has a really interesting world that is fascinating, but is not alive. Whereas Grand Theft Auto 5 has personality and it breathes, but Los Santos is Los Angeles. Who gives a shit?
You know what? It feels like they tried to merge GTA and Deus Ex and then didn't get the best of both.
Yeah, like there's enough here to make it interesting, but you don't get as much as like the world, like the people follow assigned walking paths. The traffic system in this game is fucking atrocious. but the world lore is
Yeah.
interesting. And the only companies that are ever really fleshed out is Arasaka, because they're the big bad guys in this game. Militech, they mention a few times, and Biotechnica gets a few lines here and there, and Kang Tao, which are the big kind of made.
And Trauma Team is, who are they for?
They are basically they're the Cyberpunk equivalent of Dock Wagon, which is the emergency ambulance service, which
that's
rescues you.
You know, when I was playing this with my wife watching some of it, we interchangeably used like Shadowrun terms, just because we had never played the RPG here of Cyberpunk. We'd always played Shadowrun, and so we would often go, "Oh, well, that's Dock Wagon here," and yeah, it made more sense. Oh, well, that's a street dock, not a ripper. That's, you know, Street Samurai. Boy, he's really popped out his, you know, Street Samurai blades. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, which I was kind of doing the same thing. Like, it was really hard not to call myself a street samurai, because here in this world they call you a solo, though Netrunner sounds cooler than Decker.
Oh, hell yes, it does.
And stuff like that. And it seems like self-driving vehicles are a thing in this world, which is cool, although you can't be a rigger, at least not in the traditional Shadowrun sense. Like, I don't know, the world of Cyberpunk 2077 is immensely interesting, and that's one of the things I want to talk about as we begin to kind of wind down the show here. Basically, one of the the thing that drives the plot forward is the idea of digital immortality. And by the way, heavy spoilers from here on out.
Yeah. Well, before we do heavy spoilers,
yes, basic
premise of the game.
Transhumanism. I mean, that's some heavy stuff, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
So if you're somebody who hasn't played it and you for some reason want to listen to us talk about it, the main storyline is you get caught up in some corporate espionage that you didn't realize was as heavy as it was supposed to be, and you end up with an experimental chip in your head which has an engram, which is essentially a digital copy of your soul and personality. And it's Johnny Silverhands, who was a famous musician and I guess terrorist, depending on who you look at. You get his essence put into your brain, and it slowly starts to override your own brain, and eventually it will be you'll cease to exist, and that personality will take over. And you uncover a plot to you uncover bunch of corporate crazy shit happens, but you get caught up in a plan to digitize people's lives, essentially. And whether or not that means that you become property or you cease to exist as a person, there's a bunch of those sorts of questions that are involved. And along the way, there's more. It's not that many missions, actually. You attempt an assassination, it doesn't go the way you want it to go, and then you're left with a point of no return where your body and mind are failing you, depending on your choices and how the missions and how many missions you've done, your romance options. You get a choice to basically go 3 different endings that then can branch out from there, and you have to decide how you're going to tackle this question of how are you going to handle what's in your head, and how are you going to handle what Arasaka wants to do if they launch this product that will allow immortality in a sense, but is it really immortality?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, like, because we can't really sum it up, and we'd have to spend a lot longer than we are to go through every plot point. I will mention one thing before we go into the endings. To get all the trophies and there's tarot cards that you can collect throughout the game by finding them on the side of buildings, pictures. And each ending that you do can provide you with another tarot card that's not in the rest of the game. You can miss one, though. There is a mission during that assassination attempt where the samurai, what's his name again?
Takamura.
Apparently you can save him.
Yes, you can. I've done it.
And I had no idea. If you miss him, it's like you have like 3 seconds to get to him. And if you don't save him, you can't get I think it's the devil.
Yes.
Wow.
The devil tarot card, because he must be saved and then choose one of the specific endings that he will show up in. If he does not show up in that ending, you do not get that last tarot card. And it's the only truly missable event. A missable.
There is another tarot card you can miss because it's in a building you can't get back into.
Oh yes, correct. But it's sort of pretty. It'd be hard to miss that one.
Yes.
But this one is entirely missable, and about 90% of people have, if you look at the trophies. So yes, so leading us into the end, you are given the choice. The main ending, if you do nothing of the extra side quests and don't have your skills up and don't have yada yada, is you are going to meet with the daughter of Arasaka, who was killed, and she's going to give you an option to go in and take the business back by force from her brother, and she'll find a way to free you. And then, Michael, if you want to go on, or actually,
so
we'll go. I don't know how we want to tackle this. I think Aaron has.
Aaron, what was your playthrough? What is your canonical ending for you that you feel this is the ending that you want?
I only was able to play through one ending, and it's not an ending I liked, to be honest.
What happened?
I felt like I only had one choice to make through the ending, and I ended up on a space station in Earth orbit with Johnny Silverhand destroyed and grinded out. And then they gave me the choice since my body was still dying, they gave me the choice to either have my own mind downloaded into the machine or to go back to Earth and die. And I told them, well, after what you did to Johnny Silverhand, because I didn't at that time, I was like, I didn't really have a choice about Johnny Silverhand. I was dying. After what you did to Johnny Silverhand, fuck off. And I went back to Earth.
Did you give them the finger as you walked out?
Oh yeah.
Because you can go up to that door. So yes. So that is the plain canonical ending. But if you save Takamura, he's the one that visits you there.
Instead of, I think it's Hellman who comes.
I had Hellman come up.
So he visits you, and when you're doing the Rubik's Cube, and the devil shows up, it will only trigger the trophy if he's the one that visits you after that.
Yes, because you bust open the cube and there's Satan appears.
Yeah, because it's your head is going. You're losing your mind. So I really didn't like the ending. I was like, this isn't really what I was trying to go for.
So the other ending there is you choose to be downloaded, and it shows you going into the room. You go under, and then it pops up at the end with that the scrolling of everybody trying to communicate with you, and not knowing where you are.
It's sad too. Damn.
Oh yeah. So we should say this: that when you make your decision, you go and have your talk with the daughter, and then you have your breakdown, and you sit up on the roof above your Ripper dock, and you talk to Johnny. And if you have other options, if you've done more of the side missions, and you have, I forget, there's certain. You have to have completed the storylines with them, with the extra characters, and have them in a favorable manner with you. The main option, if you don't have any of those other side missions done, is to do what you did. Then there is a sort of secret ending, but not really. And there's an option to just blow your brains out.
I saw that one too. I actually did that on a second go through because I just wanted. I'm like, okay, I know this has to end in suicide.
No trophy, and then people on Reddit were like, "Why is there no trophy?" And their official response was, "We don't want to reward you for killing yourself."
Yeah. I did the suicide ending out of frustration at first. I'm like, I just want this game to be fucking over with. I'm so over.
And you get the bad, and that the only thing that's different about that ending is everybody calls you crying or disappointed.
Yeah, they're like, "Why did you do it? Rot in hell!" Wow,
because they're and especially if your lover contacts you, like it's heartbreaking because and they're recording a eulogy video that they're going to bury with you. Is what they're doing.
God, that's so depressing. I did that just to see the ending, and then when like the videos started coming up, I'm like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to watch that. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, I romanced Judy, and she's laying in bed sobbing.
Oh God! See, I'm glad I didn't romance anybody then.
She's a really good. That's one of the things that made me fall in love with Judy. That's a really good performance. That's really great heartbreak.
Yeah, see,
So yes,
I don't want to have that though in a game that I'm really kind of enjoying because I love the atmosphere, and then all of a sudden I just want to slip my wrists. You know,
well, that's the only. Well, that only happens if you kill yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you're with her. I also I romanced two people because you can. I also romanced the police officer.
River, yeah.
Yeah, so if you play as a female, you can romance both. I think even when I had the penis, I was able to romance both of them. I can't remember. It depends on your gender and all this sort of stuff of who you can get. But regardless, if you won't get that call from her if you don't. I think if you get different responses if you choose to call them before you make your decision as well.
Yes.
So that's the canon ending if you don't do anything but the main story. If you romance people and complete their storylines, for instance, if you do Judy's, you eventually, I don't know if you did this, Aaron, because you didn't, well, I guess because you didn't romance, probably not. You eventually go outside of town to this like pond, or what appears to be a pond with a shack on it. It's like her uncle's house. And you go scuba diving with her into her town where she grew up in that was destroyed when they decided to destroy a dam. I guess to further the chemical plant or whatever they were building. And you go scuba diving with her, and you actually swim down there and everything, and it's a whole mission where there's no enemies. And you're just going from plot to plot, using your scanning ability to find trinkets and things that were part of her life. And you can find items from when she was a little girl and give them to her as gifts. And then eventually you leave, and that's how you grow the bond with her, and completing that gets you a trophy, as well as opening up some dialogue stuff with her later on. Then if you do Rogues one, you have to do Rogues. You can do Carries, you can do a few others, and completing their storylines will give you some other options. If you do, let me think, whose is the next one? So choosing to do that. If you do Pan Am's one, which is, I think it's leaning towards that being the canon ending as far as the good ending in quotes. The ending is different. It always starts with you doing an assault or approaching the Arasaka Tower in a different way. If you do the ending where you follow what the daughter says, you make your way up there, you end up having to fight what's his name there? Adam Smasher, which by the way, I forgot we mentioned, one of the best underutilized villains I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, I wish he was in more of the game, other than like the part where he calls you a fuckable piece of meat and then fight.
You look like a fuckable piece of meat. It's like, oh my god.
Oh dear. Can I mention one more thing I wish was in the game?
Yeah.
I want all of Samurai's music in the game that I can listen to that are mentioned. Like, I want to hear all of those tracks.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's DLC.
There
But,
are
I
songs in the game, but I wish there was more. There's Chippin' In, Fade Away, and I can't remember the name of the other track.
It would be nice if you could find a CD and play it in your room.
Yeah, like that. If I had a minor nitpick, just this will be like 30 seconds. I wish when you listened to the radio, you knew what track was playing. Even if you went into the dashboard, it would appear on your menu. It'd just say, hey, this track is playing, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to see the soundtrack to 2077, it's on Spotify. So there's that.
Yeah. So with him, by the way, little secret, you can actually find his office in the oil tanker on the outside of town.
Yeah, his gun's pretty fucking cool, by the way.
Yeah, he has a rocket or a heat-seeking missile launcher. But yes, so in every version, you have to fight him, and that's what I was getting to when I was saying that you can't do stealth in the end of the game. You must kill him, which is, well, I mean, you can choose to let him live, but you must do combat. So you always have to do either an assault on the tower or go to the tower with the daughter and make your way up, and eventually you have to fight. So, and also, if you do the mission that I believe you did, Aaron, you find out the Arasaka's children are kind of incestuous.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And by kind of, very. So yeah, more. It's not quite explicit, but it's more than implied. So the Pan Am ending is it's actually one of the harder endings. because you end up having to assault the tower without getting help from pretty much anybody except the nomads, and it's a longer mission. You ride in with the giant tank that they have. I forget the name of the tank.
It's a Panzer Basilisk or some shit like that.
Yeah, the hover tank where you're blowing shit up out of the air. You have to try as your best to make sure that as little people or nobody dies as possible in the party. You blast your way in through like underground entrances. You drill your way in. You make your way to the end, and as you go in, Atom Smasher comes in and kills the leader of the nomads by how is his one? His one, yeah, his one. He steps on his head and smushes it into.
Yeah, it's pretty like holy shit.
And Panam screams from across the screen, and then you have to kill him, and you go down to the you go down into the core, and you hook up into the system, and you're left with you're in cyberspace. You meet up with what's her name?
Alt, who
is now some sort of super AI or something.
Yeah, she was in Cyberpunk Red. She is the first big victim of Soul Killer. And what happened in the prequel to this, Johnny, you see this kind of play out in the game. Johnny rescues her, but her engram wasn't in her body. So when Johnny unplugged her, he killed her by accident. So she's lived on as an AI inside the Mikoshi kind of data fort, and then somehow she got out beyond the black wall, and now she's a super AI who controls AI ghost towns.
I was reading that she may have communicated with something other dimensional or something extraterrestrial.
Yeah,
to become what she is.
I don't know. Really? There was something like alien?
Yeah. Something about how she encountered something beyond what was created on Earth is what's mentioned.
I don't know. I guess I would have taken... Because what I took was that she had just been dealing with AIs beyond the black wall, and that in all of that time, they had been evolving as well.
There's some flavor text about communicating with something from beyond Earth. Or it could be that that's what her goal is or something.
I mean, there is off-world colonies, so to speak. You know, there's something on the moon, there's something on Mars.
Yeah. So that may be what's involved. But yeah, so you hook up, and then she gives you the choice of going back in your own body and living out your time to die, or having Johnny take over. And if you let Johnny take over, there's an ending where you're Johnny, and the epilogue is you are going and traveling the world again and trying to be a better person. And you're there like teaching a young boy how to play guitar, and then you just sort of you go and you just sort of see that the future is going to be interesting for Johnny. And if you choose to have, or Johnny can choose to like go like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna leave and go into cyberspace, and you can have your body back, and then you're gonna maybe die. If you do that and you go back into your own body, you end up leaving with Panam and the Nomads, and you have an even longer bit of a post game where you're driving in the tank and you're making your way outside of the city and trying to travel beyond, I guess,
the SoCal border. I think it is.
Yeah. And your goal, and while your Ripper Doc is contacting you saying you get checked up, you're going to travel America and the world trying to find a cure for yourself. And that there's been some sort of serum you've had that's been helping. So it's the only ending that has optimism.
Yeah, and there's a great scene when I played this. I actually posted pictures of this on my Twitter with no context. It's you and Panam sitting across the hover tank, and I guess you're crossing a really shallow lake, or there's just like some mirage or something. But it's you at night sitting on top of the tank, just floating through the desert, and it's really nice looking.
Yeah. And if you are, in my case, I romanced Judy, and I made the phone call to her before the end of the game, before I made my final choices. She will show up in that ending, and you get to live together.
Yes. which is very nice because you both
Like,
hug
again,
and you kiss.
only happy ending. And actually, when if you choose that ending, Johnny is happy to go off with Alt. It's the only ending where everybody is happy.
And he says to keep on fighting, and it was good to work with you.
Yeah, and if you get your percentage high enough with him, he basically is come to terms with you being a friend. So that's that ending. The ending, if you do Johnny's quest and then finish the Rogue quest, you can choose to go with let Johnny take over your body for the final mission. In doing so, he seemed to move a little faster. I don't know if that was just me, but you end up doing a big raid on the building instead of with the Nomads. You do it with Rogue, the Jamaican dude, and Alt shuts down all the bad guys, basically murdering everybody in front of you. So you have a very breezy way to get to the end of the game. And when you go in, it's a very similar scene to when you go in with the Nomads, only Atom Smasher comes in, picks up Rogue, rips into her chest, and pulls her heart out in front of you.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
And then you beat up Atom Smasher, and then you have an option, which obviously you'd want to do. You pick up Rogue's gun, and then you can kill. You have a little more dialogue, and Atom Smasher realizes that you really are Johnny, and you kill him. And then you finish the game, and if you then get the same exact choices that you had from doing the Pan Am ending, and the difference will be you won't get a call from Rogue because Rogue's been killed, obviously. And when you beat that game, when it loads you back to the point of no return, you get Rogue's gun.
Oh, that I never noticed.
Any weapon you pick up in the endings, and certain items like the jet boots you get with her, where you're jumping down and you can float down to the ground without having any damage, you get those to keep.
Oh, I never noticed that. I may have to go back and check my Steam.
Yeah, same with the tarot cards and all that. So there's that. Those are the two endings you have there. There's that ending, and then there's the hard ending. The hard ending requires you to have 70% or higher, which you can't seem to get any higher.
Actually, there are ways to do it lower, because you have to answer Johnny's questions in a specific order.
Yeah, you have to answer Johnny's questions in a specific order when you go to his grave, but you also have to have certain other triggers, and it seems to work best if you have it at around 60 or 70%.
Yeah, I've seen one guy do it at 50.
So when you have to go choose, you know your ending. And you have to have at least, you have to have done Rogue's entire playthrough and have her as an ally. But I did it when I had all three. So you sit there in the chair, and when you have the choice to decide which ending you want or kill yourself or whatever, and you actually have to do this, which is interesting. You have to look at Johnny with the camera, look down at the left-hand side where the gun is sitting on the table, then look to the right. In your hand, you'll see the pills. Then you look back at Johnny, and then don't touch anything for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes go by and you've met all those criteria, including moving the camera around to look at the thing, at your options, he says, it's kind of hard to pick which of your friends have to die. How about we do this solo? And then you'll tackle the Arasaka building without any help at all. Just yourself, and every enemy is level 50, maxed out with double armor. And every enemy that normally gets killed by Alt doesn't get killed. You have to fight everybody. I was level 45. I even had pretty much all my skills maxed out where I could kill Atom Smasher in about 4 seconds. And I unloaded every piece of ammo I had to kill one enemy out of like the 300 or 400 you're going to have to kill in there. To beat that mode, you must be level 50. You must have your cool spec'd out almost max. You must be using blades, pretty much blades only, and you must have all the perks that heal you every time you injure or kill an enemy. And it's non-stop ////// for like 35 minutes. It's wave after wave after wave. You make your way down, and then the only difference from the ending is it's the only ending where nobody dies. And it's the only ending where as Johnny you can talk to Rogue.
Well, damn, I want to have that one.
I don't know. That's the ending. I think that's the least worth it because it's just got a few minor dialogue changes.
It doesn't give you a trophy either, so they didn't really expect you to beat it.
I also found out
it's
something different.
It's also not necessarily a happy ending. It can give you a slightly happier ending if you do that. Actually, no, you don't, because it's not the Pan Am ending. So
you do become king or queen of Afterlife,
which is the same ending as you do as if you do the regular rogue ending.
Yeah,
it's just rogue. It's the difference is when you're ruling, you basically become the leader of Afterlife and the head fixer for the entire city. But the difference is Rogue will be working at Afterlife still.
And then you go to space.
We'll get to that. And then, or your option is if Johnny takes over, you'll get a message from Rogue saying, where the hell are you? Blah, 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 blah. So, and then Johnny will make a remark, but not talk to her that, Rogue's still there. But yeah, if you choose the ending where you take over your body, in either the Pan Am one, no, it's not the Pan Am one. Sorry, no, it's just this one, just the Rogue one, or the one where you do solo at the end. If you choose to take over your body and Johnny goes into cyberspace, you end up taking control of the Afterlife, and you're on some mission with somebody named Mr. Blue Eyes hiring you, some rich, enigmatic person that's in the shadows that nobody in the city even knows who he is. And you take a mission to basically take down Arasaka entirely. And you end up in a space shuttle. You put on your space gear, and if you look at your menu, Michael, I don't know if you did, it puts your street, not your street cred, but you have your 3 bars where one's like the Johnny level, one is your I think it's your legendary status level.
Yeah.
And then the third one is like when you're dying or something.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, depending on how you do Johnny's communications, you'll be at 90 or 95% there. And it puts your legendary status at 100 when you do that version of the ending.
That I didn't look at. I only looked at the gun that it gave me.
Yeah, and the very final thing is where that final status bar where it tells you your percentage. Nobody seems to get that higher than a certain point. I think that it's supposed to be like where you're like getting taken over. So I have a suspicion that there's another ending they're going to put in where you choose a third path where both of you are still in your head. And it goes longer. So there's a possibility there. But anyway, you then exit the space shuttle, and it ends with you flying towards
the Crystal Palace.
An Arasaka space casino resort, and you're going to basically blow it up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It ends with you
loving this thing.
Yeah, it ends with you floating towards it with your gun, and you're staring at it, and then it plays the music. So you can have that ending where it's like, that's a cool ending, but like the happy ending is the Pan Am ending.
Yeah, which I have a feeling the Pan Am ending is probably the canonical, because they want you to have a happy ending. Johnny says goodbye. Hopefully you've got Judy with you or whoever.
Unless they do add another ending where it's literally Johnny still in your head. They find a way to make you live together.
Yeah. I mean, overall, as we begin to wrap this up, I enjoyed my time with Cyberpunk. I loved it at times, but I wasn't in love with it the entire time. Constant technical issues. There were some quests that were very, I wouldn't say they made me feel uneasy, but they were very dark. There's a quest where you have to crucify a guy. That's
that didn't trigger for me. No, I would say if we had to say the most problematic one that you can, there's certain other ones where you can say they're dark, or there's that incest one, there's that yada. The most problematic and dark, but I'm happy that they're willing to go places that maybe other games aren't, is the
serial killer.
The serial killer, where he takes children and then forcibly like feeds them hormones so that they either change genders or have no gender. He basically forces them into becoming eunuchs and then suffocates them inside of this like cattle farm.
Yeah, it's weird.
That one's the darkest one by far.
I don't know. Nailing the guy to a cross was pretty fucking weird.
Well,
you can choose not to do that.
Yeah, you can choose. But this one, yeah, like it's the mission you do with, you go on with the police officer, but the it's not that part that's dark. The dark part, the part that can be seen as problematic, is the explanation for why he does it is that he's autistic and doesn't understand emotion. That's the official explanation in the game. And it's the only part of the game where I'm playing it and I go, whoa, guys, no. It's not like a character in the game, like that's already a bad person, is saying that's the excuse. That's the explanation that's given.
Do you think that's a cultural thing?
It may be an Eastern European thing where they're just not as sensitive to it, or it's not seen as an issue the same way.
I don't know. Wow. I feel a little bad even suggesting that it might be a cultural thing, because that just seems, I don't know.
That's the only part of the game. Like, you can argue left and right, like, oh, the sex and gender things were not handled right. Yeah, there can be issues in translation or concepts of things. Of the entire LGBTQ community is entirely probably different in Europe and how things are handled. They're having their own issues that are different than what Americans are fighting for, and yada yada yada. There's going to be different views. This was the only mission that I played where I was like, ooh, that might not be the right way to have said that.
Yeah, it didn't sit right with
they should have said, they could have said something like, oh, he was emotionally stunted, he had psychological abuse as a child where he didn't grow properly, and then they could have said that he's had, you know, he's had psychological trauma and he didn't develop properly. But it stuck in my head because they said, oh, he's autistic, and then he didn't understand how to communicate to people, and we just thought that he didn't have friends for that reason. And it's like, no, it's that he's a serial killer. And they I don't know if they're trying to equate that he's a serial killer because of this, or that's the reason that he was able to do it or something, but it didn't need to be there.
Yeah, it's one of the few missions where I'm like, this needs one or two more writing passes on it. And it's
funny because it's one of the issues that I don't think popped up when people were getting mad at the game. I don't know if people have played far enough into it to see that.
I think I saw it pop up a few times, but I'm not 100% sure.
But yeah,
I saw
take that out of the fact, and I'm okay with a story taking a dark turn.
Yes,
in fact, I can find it exciting, and like, not that, you know, I would want everything has to be evil and dark, but I do like when they're willing to have, you know, dynamic turns left and right. I just think that, and it's not like, I'm not saying they should censor their vision or something if people get mad at that. I just think there could have been a better, more compelling reason.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree. I think Cyberpunk did a lot of good things in terms of its scope and ambition. Did it pull off everything it needed to? No. Is the game worth playing? In about 6 months, yes. As it stands
or
now,
if you have PC or Stadia, it works fine now. If you have a decent hardware for the PC, you'll get the experience that you were supposed to get for the most part. And maybe minus some content that had to be cut for time.
And you can mod it too.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, we had, like, I might be complaining, but I had an enjoyable time except for the frustration that I had with it. And it sounds like, Aaron, like, we all liked the game.
Yeah, I liked the game. I'd even recommend people getting it now. Like, it's buggy. There are problems, but it's such an enjoyable.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for like the broken promises, like you said, or the random crashes, I would honestly think that this is the best game that's been released in the past 10 years.
And what it needs is also, one thing to say is, if you have an original Xbox One, don't get it, because the performance is even half of what you're playing at, Aaron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're talking 5 to 6 frames per second.
Oh God! See, I never had problems with frame rate.
Yeah,
the PlayStation saw a single thing.
Even the PlayStation, the PS5 version, or the PS5 playing the PS4 Pro version, apparently works better, Michael, than what we're playing.
I don't know. My next door neighbor Liam reported way more crashes than me.
But it's not as many. We're talking like where it locks the system up like mine.
Yeah.
And apparently that has to do with the fact that PlayStation runs on Linux, or a Linux-based operating system. And what they did here was they did a very cheap port to Windows, and then just released it. And the original Xbox One is about 20% less powerful, or has about 20% less power than the PlayStation 4 did. And then it sort of scales that way up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, there's been some patches released since. I haven't had the game in almost a month now, because I returned it and got myself Stargate SG-1 on Blu-ray.
There was a patch release just before Christmas. There is talk of incoming patches early February. So my advice to you is if you want to take advantage of any of the duplication glitches, do so now.
Yeah, I have my save files, and I will come back to the game, and I feel like my opinion will change dramatically once it's ready.
Yeah. So I guess our opinion on Cyberpunk 2077 is play in whichever way you can. Stadia or PC seems to be the best way to go right now. Yeah. Plus, again,
if you don't have a powerful enough PC or gaming console, you can't afford to get a new system or can't find it. Honestly, the best way might be to, if you're willing to get like better than last gen quality, but not quite next gen / computer quality, it might be worth paying for the Stadia copy and then paying, because you don't even have to pay to have like Pro. You can play it in 1080p on any computer or device. So that may be the way to do it, as long as your internet connection's fast enough.
Yeah, just temper your expectations with
Yes.
bugs. Like if you go into it knowing there are going to be bugs, there's going to be issues.
Do not expect a Sony Ghost of Tsushima Last of Us style experience where it's polished to the T.
Yeah, but it's still incredibly fun, incredibly immersive, atmospheric, and interesting.
This will be the next generation's Skyrim in the regards that it's so open. There's so much to do. CD Projekt Red's going to have to do a lot of damage control. It's not Bethesda levels. Actually, no, this is worse than Bethesda.
Worse than Bethesda levels,
but,
unfortunately.
that weirds me out. Like, I was thinking about that too. Like, to me, Bethesda dropped the ball way worse than CD Projekt.
Bethesda, here, you know what the problem with it is? This is a good game with major bugs. Bethesda doesn't make very good games. They make decent to okay. This is an excellent game with bugs. Bethesda only ever reaches the good to maybe great level, and it makes it worse when the game isn't that enjoyable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more about the world of Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk in general, I highly recommend you go to R. Talsorian's website. You can find out where you can buy a copy of Cyberpunk Red or the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit, both of which we have reviewed here on the show within the last couple of months. You can also go to DriveThruRPG, find out more information over there if you want to buy the book digitally. And finally, you can also you can listen to the soundtrack on Spotify if you want to hear everything. I know the Samurai songs are being performed by the band Refused, and they do sound pretty awesome. My favorite being Takeaway.
Best soundtrack for a game in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Game where they created. No, I'm not talking score. Some games like Final Fantasy have had better scores. We're talking they made individual songs written for this game by different rock bands.
Okay. All right. So yeah, once again, there's also a ton of merch. There's toys from McFarlane. There are world books, which are really good. So look on Amazon for those if you want to find out more about it. There is a complete guidebook, which is not as accurate as you'd want it be, but it's got wonderful pictures, got some great world lore and whatnot in it. It is worth
How accurate can a strategy guide be for a game that wasn't finished when it came out?
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, guys, we are back with live programming next Monday. We will be having episodes of Future Imperfect, which you will have already heard by the time this episode has aired. Thank God Discovery's over. I can't wait to never talk about it until next year. But anyway, so for this edition of The Prototype, only on This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I've been Mike the Birdman, and it's time to chip in one last time.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
We lost everything. We had to pay the price. Yeah, we lost everything. We had to pay the price.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.